I love fantasy and my favorite race has always been the elves. So today I'm going to make an elven inspired circlet. There is just one problem, this wire is extremely difficult to bend into shape. And I have zero experience making anything like this. So I challenge myself to turn this stubborn wire into a beautiful fantasy crown. Let's see if I can actually pull it off. Hey everyone, I'm Shugi, the artist behind Novira Journey and Clay Art, and today we are making an elven inspired fantasy crown, or more accurately a circlet from stainless steel wire. I've never made anything like this before, and honestly it looks pretty difficult. And of course I went with an extremely difficult design for the first try. If I am not crying by the end of this, my wrist probably will from bending 20 gauge stainless steel wire. So grab a drink, get cozy, and let's see if I can make an elven circle. I started by measuring the circumference of my head, dividing that number in half, and sketching a swirly-twirly design for one half of the crown onto an A4 sheet of paper. I didn't really watch any tutorials before jumping into this, so I'm really hoping this sketch will help guide me along the way. Next, I cut my first piece of thicker wire, but the cut end was incredibly sharp. Since I'd rather not hurt myself, I sanded it down a little until it was nice and blunt. Then came the hardest part, the bending. I cut a 65 cm piece of wire, even though my head circumference is only 56 cm, but I needed to bend in these little circles. First I struggled with the middle bit a little, because every time I bent it one side ended up a little longer than the other, and I didn't want it to be asymmetric, so I had to keep redoing it. And then I realized I didn't have the perfect size circle to bend my wire around. So I grabbed my 3D varnish bottle and bent the wire around it, and it was the perfect size. However, the piece of wire I cut was still nowhere near long enough. I really didn't want to waste that much stainless steel wire, so I straightened it out as much as I could using the special pair of pliers, which English name I have absolutely no idea about. So from now on we are just calling them the special pliers. I said English name, I don't even know the name of them in Hungarian. But anyway, thanks to them I will be able to save this piece of wire for the smaller details later on. I also had to quickly realize that the long pieces of wire were slowly destroying my workspace. They kept catching onto everything, so I had to remove all the pretty flowers and decorations. So now my desk just kind of felt empty and sad until the end of the video. Finding these wire straightening pliers made me ridiculously happy, because I hate twisting materials, and before this, once I bent a piece of wire, there was basically no chance of straightening it and reusing it the same way. At least I can salvage my mistakes instead of throwing them away. And guess what I did next? I cut the wire short again. A fantastic start, if I do say so myself. Anyway, third time's the charm, right? On my third attempt, I finally cut a piece of wire that was actually long enough. Well, roughly. From here on, the process gets pretty repetitive. Cut the wire, bend the wire, and make little swirly whirlies at the end. After making 3 or 4 pieces, I finally started assembling everything together. So while I'm doing that, let me explain why I decided to use stainless steel wire. Most people make circlets like this with silver wire. It looks very similar to this, but it's much easier to work with because it's so much softer. The downside is that it's also a lot more expensive. I would love to make more intricate, elegant crowns in the future, and if I get the hang of it, I might invest in some silver wire, but because it's so soft, it also bends and deforms much more easily. On the bright side, that makes it really easy to shape perfectly to your head. Another thing to keep in mind is that silver tarnishes over time. You can polish it, clean it of course, but I'm not sure how well that would work with a wire-wrapped crown. I would be very worried that scrubbing and cleaning it too often could loosen the wire or even deform the piece. Another popular option is brass wire. You can buy it in brass finish, silver colored, gold colored, or even plated. The problem with plated wire is that coating will most likely get scratched off or damaged while you are bending it and cutting it, let alone when you wear it. However, the biggest advantage of brass wire is that it's extremely inexpensive, easy to find, and incredibly easy to work with. And that's why so many wire wrappers use it to create those amazingly intricate designs. The downside is that brass tarnishes and changes color over time. It can also leave blue or green stains on your skin. Personally, I'm not a huge fan of that. I love the steampunk look of brass, but the tarnishing and skin discoloration have always kept me away from using it. There are some brass wire brands that sell coated non-tarnishing wires, although I'm a little skeptical about how well those coatings hold up. I might give them a try in the future project. If you have any favorite ones, please let me know. As for stainless steel, it's definitely the hardest of the three to work with, but it's also incredibly durable. It keeps its color, doesn't tarnish, doesn't stain your skin, and once you finally wrestle it into your shape, it tends to stay that way. Some people even use aluminum wires. I've tried it before and I could literally squish it with almost no effort. It even snapped in half from the tiniest bit of pressure. Maybe I just got a faulty batch, but it didn't exactly inspire confidence, and I definitely wouldn't feel comfortable selling something made from it. Stainless steel, on the other hand, is pretty much the opposite. You can bend it, eventually, but it takes a lot of effort. Even the thinner wire you will see me using, tying all the pieces together, is surprisingly difficult to wrap neatly because it constantly wants to spring back to its original shape. The upside is that it's incredibly durable, as I mentioned, especially compared to brass wire of similar thickness. Once it's bent into place, it will surely stay there. That said, I personally think it's difficult, if not impossible, to make those super intricate, delicate wire wrap designs with stainless steel this thick. My hands already hurt from making these smaller bends. Honestly, I would even prefer the main wire to be a little thicker because I think it would make the crown look much nicer. But if I went any thicker than this, I genuinely don't think I would be able to bend it by hand, or even with my pliers. If you have ever done wire wrapping or have any recommendations for a durable wire that's easier to work with, let me know in the comments. I would love to make more circlets and wire wrap projects in the future, but at this rate the stainless steel is absolutely destroying my hands. Anyway, back to the craft. I started by tying two pieces of together at a time. At first, I tried taping them in place, but the wire was stronger than any amount of tape I could use without it getting in the way. So instead, I had to grip the larger piece as tightly as I could while making the first 2 or 3 wraps. This resulted in my hand that was holding the wire being in so much more pain than the one that was actually bending it. Switching hands would have been a great solution, however my left hand is very clumsy, so I would not have been able to wrap the wire with it. Tying the first few loops were definitely the hardest because the pieces kept sliding around and refusing to stay where I wanted them. Sadly, there are 1 or 2 joints where my wrapping wasn't quite tight enough at the end, so the pieces can still move around a little. But that's all part of the learning process, and now I know what to improve on the next time I make one of these, or something very similar to it. Next time, I think I will try making something with a tighter, less open design, because I think these thinner wires might actually work better for those styles, and I feel like something is missing from this. And I surely can't make anything more intricate than this with these wires. What do you think? Would you be interested in seeing me try making another circlet or a more detailed wire wrap design in the future? Whether it be stainless steel, silver or brass wires? If I manage to make 3 or 4 designs that I'm really happy with and I enjoy making, and of course it doesn't destroy my hand, I might start offering custom commissions for them in my shop. You can actually find my webshop linked in the description or in my bio. I sell unique, made-to-order jewelry along with clay magnets, keychains and other little handmade trinkets. And for a limited time, I also have a 15% off coupon for the whole order for the first 5 people who purchase any 2 items from my shop. You can see the code right now on screen, or you can find it in the description below. I really want to get better at wire wrapping because I see so many people creating the most beautiful fantasy jewelry with it, and I would love to try my hand at making something like that too. I'm also thinking about trying cosplaying in the near future. I honestly have no idea where to start, but I feel like being able to make my own wire wrapped accessories would be such a useful skill to have. I already have so many characters in my mind that I would love to cosplay, but for my first attempt, I will probably need something that is a little simpler. Some characters I would love to try are Mina, Celeste and Vindicta from the game Deadlock, Mercy and Shion from Overwatch, Ciri from The Witcher, and Frieren and Fern from Frieren Beyond Journey's End. And that's only a small list because there are so many anime and video game characters I would absolutely love to recreate. The only problem is finding the time. Between making my own designs, running my shop, and learning completely new skills, I'm not sure when I will actually have time to start my first cosplay, but I definitely want to look into it. Have you ever cosplayed before? If so, what was your first character you made, and which one was your favorite to make? If you have a social media, I would really love to see your creations. And if you have any tips, tricks, or beginner-friendly resources for someone just starting out with cosplay, please share them in the comments. I would really appreciate any advice. I thought I would have more free time now that I finished my driving theory and passed it, but apparently that was just wishful thinking, because now I have to start the actual driving lessons, which means I probably have even less time than I did before. And honestly, I am terrified of driving. I've always been scared of being in a car in general, so the idea of actually being the person controlling it is very intimidating. But I really want to attend art markets one day, and for that having a car and of course a driver's license would make such a huge difference. So that's basically my entire motivation for getting my license, not because I enjoy driving, but because I want to be able to bring my creations to an art market and share them with more people. Please send me some good vibes because I really need them. Hopefully one day I will look back and laugh at how scared I was of starting. I started another challenging part of making my circlet, actually turning it into a circle. It probably would have been much easier if I had just used one long piece of wire and connected it at the back, but no, I had to make it out of a million little pieces instead. I struggled so much just trying to get the back wires even remotely symmetrical. No matter how I bent them, they kept springing back and refusing to stay where I wanted them. After about 10 attempts, I finally managed to tie the first few loops tightly enough to hold everything in place. But that only solved one problem. Now I had to somehow make the back look symmetrical too. And of course, to make things even harder for myself, one backfire wasn't enough, I needed two of them. The first fire was already challenging, but I somehow managed to make it look somewhat symmetrical. The second one though was completely different story. Not only did I have to match the other side and make it look balanced, but I also had to line it up perfectly with the first back wire. If they were even slightly off from each other, the whole thing looked really uneven and honestly kind of ugly. So I had to keep adjusting and reshaping them until they finally looked like they belonged together. I'm surely learning so much from this little project. I'm an extreme perfectionist, so I'm trying to use journaling and these random art projects as a way to slowly get over it. A lot of times in my life I've been putting things off because I didn't dare to start. I always felt like I wasn't good enough, and because of that, I stopped myself from trying so many things I actually wanted to do. So I've had enough of that. I am the kind of person who, if something doesn't turn out right the first time, I immediately want to give up and I feel extremely disappointed. And that's honestly such a horrible mindset to have, because the only way to get better at something is to keep doing it, even when you are bad at it. Nobody we see online making incredible things got there because the first attempt was perfect. I find this really hard to remember sometimes because I catch myself thinking, if they can do it, surely I can do it too. And then I'm faced with the reality that actually, in fact, I can't do it yet, because I haven't done it 1,000 times like they have. This circlet I'm making is far from perfect, and I will be lying if I said I was completely happy with every part of it, but that's okay, it's completely normal. If I made 100 circlets, they would probably get better and better with every single one. I don't need to believe that this is the best I can ever do and give up, even though after all the hand paint, I definitely wanted to. Instead, I promised myself that when I have the time in the future, I will try making another circlet and see how much I have improved. It's not always easy to keep pushing when I want to give up, so thank you for being part of this journey with me. I want to continue growing and share my experiences and art with you. Decided to go with a very subtle light pink and clear colored beads so they would match a lot of different outfits and not be too overwhelming. To attach them, I use my one-step looper to create the same looking little loops every time. I absolutely love this plier because it speeds up my jewelry making process so much. I'm actually thinking about buying the other two sizes it comes in as well. Sometimes these loops are just a little too small, which can make my jewelry look slightly stiff and less natural, so I end up having to redo them. Having different sizes would definitely make creating different designs a lot easier. I've actually been putting off making some jewelry making content because my beads are currently shoved into little boxes and bags, and honestly, they are not really organized. But now that I finally have my AC installed, I can properly clean up and reorganize my entire workspace. I think it would be really fun to make a video, transform my workspace from a messy state it's in right now into a cute and cozy creative space. I also have a wall where I can organize and hang up all my beads into little bags. It's definitely going to take a while to set up everything, but I think it could be a really interesting process to share if anyone would like to see it. Also, this is my 4th video in my little rush phase that I'm doing for the next 4 to 5 weeks. I wanted to experiment and see whether people prefer more frequent content or fewer higher effort videos. In August, I'm planning to switch things up and focus on making one big, more detailed video instead of lots of shorter ones, so I hope you will look forward to that. If you don't want to miss it and you like to be part of this journey, it would mean the world to me if you could subscribe and like this video so it can reach more people. I actually wanted to make this crown for an anime convention I'm going to, but I ran out of time to put together even a simple elf cosplay. So instead I would just probably wear a nice dress and maybe this circlet too. I also wanted to make some wire-wrapped elf ears to go with it, but I had to film, edit, record the voiceover and upload this entire video in just 2 days, so unfortunately there just wasn't enough time. For me, uploading takes forever because where I live we don't have the greatest internet. Our download speeds are painfully slow and somehow the upload speeds are even worse. So even after I finished filming, editing and recording the voiceover, I still have to wait ages for the video to upload. Hopefully one day I will have faster internet, it would save me so much time. I'm actually surprised I managed to finish this crown in about 4 hours. I honestly expected it to take much longer. Of course, it probably could have gone a bit faster, but I was figuring everything out as I went, so there was a lot of trial and error along the way. Sadly, I couldn't really film the part where I attached the glass beads to the crown, because the crown was too big to fit into the frame, so I only filmed a little bit of that. I also made this little hanging one at the end. It's a tear-shaped bead, which is very difficult to work with, because if I try to put the jump ring into it, it shatters from the pressure. And while I put in wires to make these little twisted hooks, they are quite prone to breaking as well. And the hook is pretty difficult to align with the middle, but luckily I got it on the second try this time. Also, I wanted to ask if there is any fantasy movies you can recommend for me to watch, as I watched all the higher rated older ones, and as far as I know there isn't really a lot of good ones that are coming out recently. Most fictions that come out these days are either horror, which I hate, or sci-fi, which I can enjoy, but I just prefer fantasy and historical dramas instead. Now it's time for the final reveal of my circlet. I have to say, I definitely need to work on the presentation of it. I found it surprisingly difficult to put on nicely with my curly hair. No wonder most elves in movies who wear circlets seem to have perfectly straight or slightly wavy hair. I also noticed that not all of my beads like to stay exactly where I wanted them to, so I will have to figure out a way to fix that in the future designs. Overall though, I am quite happy with how it turned out, especially considering this was my very first attempt. There's definitely room for improvement, but that just makes me even more excited to make a few different styles in the future. So, what do you think? How did I do for my first try? I would love to hear your thoughts and any tips you have down in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video and want to follow my journey as I learn new crafting skills, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. Stay safe, have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!